Hello, everybody. Welcome along to It's Not Just Cricket. And it's been quite an interesting few days, hasn't it? Across the world of cricket. We've got loads to talk about today. Brendon McCullum, he's finally been sacked as the England Test coach. So that is the big story we're going to focus on in a minute. India's T20 team, where's that come from? Lost 6 in a row. So is this a big problem or just a small blip? We're going to talk about the first women's test match at Lord's. India look like they're going to hammer England at this stage. 1 day to go. But why did it take so long? Why did it take so long for them to get a test match at Lord's? And we'll talk about test cricket for women in general, the state of it, etc. And we'll also touch on a change in captain for Pakistan as well. Babar is back as the test captain. We'll briefly reflect on that as well, and the squad that they've picked. We'll do plenty more on that Pakistan squad in the days to come in the build-up to that test series. But Azeem, obviously the big story which broke yesterday is that Brendon McCullum has been sacked as the England test coach. He's going to stay on as the white ball coach. Now, obviously, you have a lot of good contacts around the team, in the team, etc. You actually flagged this up to me before it happened. So what's your understanding of how this happened and why has it been done now?
I mean, it's hard to answer why it's been done now, 6 months too late, and also why McCullum and Key stays. I think it's another decision in a line of decisions for the last sort of 6 to 12 months, which is really hard to work out logically. If I'm being perfectly honest, I think they've fudged the decision for what it's worth. And weirdly, Brendon McCullum has ended up in the role that really, right at the start of the appointments, you would have thought he was a better fit for. I think the press release was quite interesting. ECB's headline said he stepped down. His own statement comment on it seemed like he didn't want to step down, so it was a sacking. And we find ourselves in a very, very weird position now that we've got a test series not far away and don't have a captain or a coach. And actually, people are still asking the question as to how the director of cricket has stayed. Yeah, precarious times for the England, the test team. And even the players, I spoke to one of the players when I flagged it to you, and they didn't even know. So I think there's a lot of confusion around what's happened, how it's happened. And I think there's a bit of disappointment as well from the point of view that it was announced during the, women's test match, which we're going to talk about. So, yeah, captain to a point, coach to a point. I guess a lot to happen between now and the Pakistan series.
Yes, there's a lot to unpick here, isn't there? First of all, do you think it's right that he stays on as the white ball coach? I mean, England have just got to number 1 in the T20 world rankings. It was also strange timing coming off the back of hammering the world champions in T20 4-0. You almost think they should have done it before this series. Would have looked a little bit better. But are you happy that he stays on as the white ball coach?
No, I don't think I am, Matt. My worry is that the toxicity around the team, around England men's team, that is there quite, strongly. I think it'll be hard for them to get away from that if you keep the people that have actually caused it involved. I'm not saying it's all on him. I don't think it is all on him. For me, as you know, during the Ashes, I was very clear to move forward from this culture which has been created. You had to get rid of all three. And I think you found yourself in a situation where 2 have gone, and the guy making all the decisions has managed to stay, and that will linger on. If you look at the fan sort of feelings around this team, I think you just created another bit of a problem moving forward, because now Brendon and the white ball team, if they have success, and whoever comes in around the red ball test team, just are going to find a little bit of a challenge. Replacing Ben Stokes as a cricketer alone is going to be the biggest challenge, I think, moving forward. You're going to have this situation where they're going to be pitted against each other just because of the toxicity that continues from the Ashes. I think they needed some sort of a break to be able to move forward. So I personally would have complete sort of reset 12 months out from the Ashes. And, I've heard this thing about English cricket only thinks about the Ashes and they need to get away from that. How can you get away from that? Let's be right, as people who comment on the game, as people who work in the game, what is the most important thing around English cricket? And it is the Ashes. So why would you not continue to work in that cycle? So I just fear that 6 months from now, we might find ourselves in a situation where we're going, hold on a minute, what about Rob Key now? And that is what, sadly, I think we might, unless I personally feel that there is only one person who I would feel confident to be able to work with what's being given and try and find some sort of a quick solution. But anyone apart from that, I think they'll just keep going down this hole before it's a complete reset.
When you mean one person, do you mean head coach Andy Flower?
Absolutely. I strongly feel that the individually as players, the mindset that, or the little bit of a hole that they've found themselves about their own game, and then about the team as a whole, I think that balance of having the discipline, some sort of boundaries. And you know what, I'm going to flip to football here a little bit, and you see it with Thomas Tuchel, right? There's clearly a lot of respect and stuff, but there's clearly some boundaries as to, and he's strong enough to get his message across to how he feels without there being a complete sort of clash. And I've heard Langer being mentioned, who I feel will be literally the extreme of the other side and too much of a course correction. I just feel like Andy has got that history with English cricket. He knows how the English game operates. He knows how the English media operates. And, having gone away and smashed it in T20 cricket, I think he just has the overall respect to be able to come in and really get the best out of these players who are, we've argued about, I think are phenomenally talented and who have underachieved through nothing just than the mindset. And I think Andy can get that right. So if it's Andy, I would be very hopeful that England can turn this round. Anyone else, I think the toxicity could continue for quite a while.
If you're Andy Flower, though, why the hell would you take on this job? He's doing so well in T20 franchise cricket. He's grown as a coach himself. He's reinvented himself. He's won the IPL twice in a row. He's got a great job at the London Spirit. He's probably going to earn more money or the same amount of money doing that with a lot less travel, a lot less work. Why would he take on this role with England at this low ebb, no obvious captain? He'd be crazy to do it, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I don't think he will do it. I know they've mentioned that they might allow the coach to coach in the IPL, but Andy's a coach in the 100. I think he has a very, very good life balance. I don't think, even with an open checkbook, I don't think the ECB could match what I think he'd be earning. Why would you? I don't know. I don't know if he still harbors the ambition of that, that sort of going back to something he's done before and giving it another shot. I don't think he needs to. I'm finding it difficult why he would do it, unless there's an emotional attachment that, one of them things that as a human you can't really explain, and you're like, nah, I'll do it, that type thing. I just can't see how he will. And then that brings us to, well, who else? And I think the field is very small.
One name who's been banded around as an option is Andrew Flintoff, obviously head coach of the England Lions, so he's in the system. They could just promote him, fit him in. I'd be interested to see how he did, but my concern would be, is this going to be more of the same? Like, Rob Key bringing in another mate who does it or thinks cricket in the same way as him? Are we not going to just get more of the same possibly if Freddie comes in?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, and I've said this before. Everyone loves Freddie. We all do, but I think some of the promotion of him into coaching, I think has been too quick, and I don't see how he should be in that conversation. It will be more of the same. It's not just not just the fact that he's one of Keys' best mates, and also I'm fairly sure he's represented by the chairman's agency. It's just not going to be a good look, and I don't think it steps away from as popular as he is. I just don't see how that flies for me.
I'm going to chuck one more name at you before we move on. How about Mickey Arthur? Vastly experienced international coach. He's here. He knows the county game. He's been working at Derbyshire for a while now. Very avuncular guy, good with an arm round the shoulder, loves Test cricket. I think he would go back to a slightly more traditional way of doing it without maybe being a bit too traditional and too negative. Why isn't his name being mentioned more?
Yeah, I'm surprised, actually. I was thinking about this yesterday as to what other options there is. And I am surprised that Mickey's name's not been mentioned ahead of some of the others I've seen mentioned. I think Mickey has an interesting character, interesting way he goes about things. He's had success at different, international teams. Obviously been involved around the county setup. So I think he should be in the mix, actually. Like I said, in a list where there's not many that don't have T20 gigs, etc., that wouldn't leave the T20 gig. I love Andy Flower. But I think the problems of continuing the IPL role and taking the England role could be one that even he struggles to get the balance with. And I think initially he'll have a bit of a window where people won't challenge it. But if the team doesn't start performing or start getting it right, for example, start of next summer, he's with the RCB and, there's not many test matches before the Ashes. What does he do? What about his players? Does he get someone like a Jacob Ethel to go back and play in county cricket, or does he have him? So those questions and those uncomfortable bits will be really hard for even someone like him to balance. So my personal thing would be is if you can't get Andy to commit fully, a bit part, 1 foot here, 1 foot there, I think could be damaging for everyone. So, and in that situation, someone like Mickey, I think becomes a real strong proposition, because the little bit that I know him, I think he'd give up everything for it. I think it'd be all over it. I think he would literally be. It would be him like in his element. He would love the role. So I actually think he should be in the mix.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with what you said there. I think this is his dream job. I think he'd bite your hand off for it if it was offered to him, and you wouldn't get any of that baggage. He'd be able to move over quite quickly. And the fact that he's been in the county game now for a while is a real advantage. He will know how it all works. Yeah, okay. Well, we'll watch this space. England have got some serious decisions to make, captain and coach, and they've got to get these right. Let's talk about India, because England's T20 side, they're going okay at the moment, aren't they? I mean, that was a brilliant series result, 4-0 against the world champions. They smashed them in a couple of games too. And they're now number one in the world. So for that reason, I think it's right that McCullum carries on as the white ball coach. I think he's a good white ball coach. But India, this came out of the blue, didn't it? Really? 2 losses to Ireland, 4 to England, 6 in a row, when everyone thought they were completely unstoppable. So what's changed?
I think there's a little bit of the IPL is such a long tournament, so this is no excuses for them. I think they should. I don't think they should ignore this trip, but I think they should look at where they are in the cycle, and maybe they have, right. We're 2 years from the next World Cup, so if there is any point in the cycle where you want to try things, where you want to look at different things, etc., now is the time. I was surprised as anyone as to how bad they were, but they actually came across to me as a team that were in transition, were a little bit tired, little bit underprepared for these conditions, and not really. It felt like the edge wasn't there. They weren't really with it. And a team that's world champions and have been so good in ICC tournaments recently, me personally, I'm not going to sit there and get overly worried. If I was an Indian fan, I wouldn't get too worried. I've got to put the trust that and again on the England side, I think England were brilliant. I think there was facets of play where they were on a completely different level. But, let's be right, with this sort of environment or this England team, and I do think bilateral T20 international series are quite inconsequential. I do think that the manner in that England played was brilliant, but we are 2 years out from from a World Cup, and I look at some personnel in that team and the balance of the team. I'm not sure it is in getting prepared for what's coming in 2 years. I think it's for here and now. So I think you had two teams in two different mindsets around the format. But at the same time, credit where it's due. I thought England were thoroughly professional, incredibly exciting, incredibly skillful. And on the other side, India were right the very opposite.
Mm. And some people are already calling for Sky to come back. Where is he? Things were going well when Sky was the captain. This is a big early test for your mate Shreyas.
Yeah, it is. And, like I said, questions should be asked. I'm a big believer that, you don't ignore patterns or you don't ignore performances like this because they were really bad. But at the same time, you've got to be able to step away. It's like with the Ashes, right? For me, it was very important for England to learn from it, but they shouldn't be paralyzed by it in every decision that they make from there. And you've got to be able to step away and go, right, okay, let's try and put everything into context. And I think I'd say the same to India after this, is that, all of a sudden, you've not become the worst. Everyone was saying, put a third, fourth team out and they'll still be able to win. I don't think that's changed. And I think India's got to be, they're still the world champions. And they've got to be able to think like that and step away, not ignore it, but, at the same time go, right, hold on a minute. The lads have just come off the back of bloody hell, what felt like an age in the IPL. And, I sense a bit of tiredness.
Okay, let's talk about another England-India contest, shall we? And that is, of course, the one-off test match that is still going on at Lord's, but it looks like England are heading for a heavy defeat. India have been very, very good. First ever women's test match at Lord's. Let's start on that because I think England have played just over 50 home test matches before this, 19 different venues in the UK, and they'd never played at the home of cricket. That is bizarre, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. I think, listen, we know around equality and English cricket, a lot of these things have just been brushed away, like people don't really even realize it or pay attention to it. And I'll be honest with you, I think it was a landmark moment. I think it was an amazing moment, long time coming. But I still found some of the commentary around, because let's be right, the ICEC report is what's brought this game on. It was highlighted. That's when everyone actually realized. Before that, no one had even taken notice of the fact that England women's hadn't played at Lord's. And it was one of the biggest recommendations out of it. And it would have been nice, from my perspective, having been part of all of that, is that actually there was some sort of credit given to the team at the ICEC report because, it's had a lot of criticism from everyone, but actually you see the big thing that's happened. So that would have been nice. And yeah, I think long time coming, but better late than never. And it was great to see on the first day all the women that have, played for England. They brought the bell onto the ground and they were ringing the bell. I think it's just an amazing moment, and I hope it's just a start of what's to come. And I also hope that, we step from here away from, we get to a point where it's just the norm. And I think I still want to see a lot more. But I think it's just a great step forward, and it should be one that's celebrated.
Yeah, look, I agree. It was a great occasion, and they deserve that occasion, especially some of the senior players. I mean, the likes of Heather Knight, we'll get onto her in a moment. She retired off the back of it, so it's a lovely way for her to retire, even though she didn't do much in the game, off the back of this massive occasion. But I'm watching women's test cricket, and I'm thinking, is it lacking a bit of context? Because they hardly ever play. So they kind of feel like they're just a bit of an afterthought. They're an exhibition game, like a bit of a celebration. But actually, who wins and who loses is not really that important because they don't have a World Test Championship or anything like that. So what is the future of women's test cricket? Should they even be playing it if they're just going to play the one-off games here and there? What is the point of it?
Yeah, I don't think there is a future, is there? I don't think there's an appetite. I don't think there's just not enough. I guess they're not able to commercially or whether it's commercially or whether it's from a scheduling point of view. I think a lot of the focus around women's cricket is on the white ball games. These one-off test matches are really, like you say, very much an afterthought. And actually, give credit to England. England, from what I see, England are the only ones that actually even have the one-off ones. I don't see them happening around the world. So I think as well, from a player's point of view, how difficult that must be, right? They go and get this amazing opportunity to play at Lords, but I don't know when was the last time they would have played or practiced with the red ball. So yeah, I guess context does lack, but still, I think a lot of us, celebrate Test cricket as the best format. I think even that one-off one, the opportunity for the women to play that, I still think it's a great, it's a great thing to happen. Whether it's ever going to be able to, be more than that, I'm not sure. I don't think it will.
And I mentioned Heather Knight there. She is going to retire at the end of this match, which will be at the end of today. She's had a brilliant career, a few highlights, including being the captain who won a home World Cup at Lords 2017, that brilliant occasion when they beat India in the final. I wonder if we look back at her career, when we look back at her career, which will be very, very soon, are we going to sort of compare her to the likes of Owen Morgan, someone who had a similar effect on the women's game? I know she had a lot of lows as well, not least the last Ashes series in Australia, but I don't know, she's got this sort of stateswoman aura about her, a bit similar to Owen Morgan, and that World Cup win, she'll always be remembered for that.
Yeah, absolutely. A home World Cup win is, I still remember it to this day, right? Anya Shrubshaw and the celebrations. So I think that was something that will always stay. The only difference I would say comparing like Owen Morgan, the England men's white ball teams have always struggled. Whereas the England women's, they've had success in the past, with Claire Taylor, Charlotte Edwards. So I think Heather just came and took that a little bit further and was able to be, the leader that saw it to the next sort of stage of it. I think she'll be disappointed as to the last few years. I think they've really struggled, haven't they, to kick on from that. And now it's, it's on the next batch of people. You've had Nat Siver-Brand, but and others that need to really take it on and take this England women's team to a lot closer and a lot more challenging towards Australia. Because let's be right, I think the last few years, if we're being perfectly honest, the Aussies have just gone on another level and we've sort of slipped behind. So I think listen, to have played for as long as she has, to lead her country to a home World Cup win, these are something that that will define her legacy.
Yeah, we wish her luck, Heather. She's one of the good people in women's cricket. It'll be interesting to see what she does afterwards as well. But yeah, real end of an era for England with her going. Meanwhile, out in Pakistan, they've gone back to a previous era again because Shan Masood has been sacked as the Test captain. Babar Azam is back in. His second stint as the captain is going to be. I guess Shan Masood's sacking was inevitable, wasn't it? Because his record was just horrendous. But is Babar the right man, or is this a bit of a temporary measure? Does it feel a bit like a backward step to you?
I was hoping when I heard the rumours that Babar wouldn't take it on, because I just feel, the whole merry-go-round of captaincy affected his game for such a long time. And, a lot of us, Babar, like I'm a massive Babar backer, you saw the effect it had on his own game. And I just felt like he was just starting to get back to his best. And for him to have taken on the role, and Pakistan cricket captaincy brings a lot of challenges, a lot of toxicity around social media, around media. And I just feel like he's opened himself up to all of that again. And yeah, I'm a bit disappointed that he's taken it. I think the team is going to struggle, and I think he becomes a very, very easy target. Step backwards or not, there's no one else that could have done it. I would have just left Shan to do it till the end of the England series, and then they can sort of regroup. But the problems in Pakistan cricket are a lot higher and a lot bigger than who the captain is. It just that I mean, how many times over the last few years we've been talking about turmoil, changes, selectors changes, coaches changes, and it just feels like that trajectory just continues to go in the wrong direction for them, and a lot of these changes play a big part to that.
Hang on a minute. How can you let Sean carry on? He's got an awful record. They had to do something, didn't they?
Yeah, well, you've got a tour to England. Listen, I wouldn't have changed it when Sean got it, right? What I'm saying is you've got a tour to England, which is going to be difficult anyway. I'd rather Pakistan's best player just carried on in batting, and Sean just take on that mantle. Sean's got a bit more experience in the UK, with county cricket and stuff. And then post that series, could have looked back at it, but he goes into a series in England, and yeah, I think listen, having followed it and continue to follow Pakistan cricket, he's just going to be an easy target when the team struggles, because I don't think it's an if. I think the team will struggle. I look at the squad. I think it's light in every department, really. Batting probably has the most experience, but England's not going to be easy in England to take on, even if England's got all this their own problems.
Yeah, Shaheen Sharafridi, Hassan Ali, Noman Ali, they've all been dropped for this series. So you look at the seam bowling, and it does look a little bit light, doesn't it? Mohammad Abbas will be relying on a lot because he knows these conditions. But if the pitches are flat, then they could definitely struggle. You can see that. Are you surprised that Shan Masood has kept his place in the squad as a batter?
Shan's had one of them careers. He's never really nailed down his place, and he's never, you think he's a good one to have in the squad. At this stage, I don't really understand any selection criteria. We talked about India, and you feel like there is a logic to things that have taken place or things that happen in Pakistan cricket. I couldn't give you reasoning behind, keeping him. I couldn't tell you whether he's even going to play. They've got young opening left-handed batter. So I don't really know. I don't really think they know what they're doing either. So it's hard for us to sit here and try and explain the reasons. Listen, as I said, he has got experience in county cricket. He is someone that's, he's got the ability, but he's never been able to sort of nail down that place. Maybe now's the time.
Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, trying to find some sort of sane reasoning behind any Pakistani selection decisions is like trying to find a needle in a haystack, to be honest. But who knows? They'll get it right eventually at some point. And we're going to talk loads more about that series, aren't we, as it gets closer. Pakistan coming over here to England for the next Test series, and that's going to start in August. That's going to be good. Thank you, mate. Thank you, everyone who's been listening, or whether you're watching on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, do give us a follow as well. I know most of you tend to listen as a podcast, but we'd like a few of you to get involved with the video too. So get onto the It's Not Just Cricket podcast YouTube channel. We're also sometimes published on the Cricket Smash YouTube channel as well. In fact, quite often we are. So give both of those YouTube channels a follow. That would be great. And we'll be back later. We might even pop up later on in the week. We'll see if there's some interesting stories. We'll try and do another one towards the end of the week. Otherwise, we'll see you next week.